welcome. Disco Acid Cult TV. We have Mark here. Mark is a good friend of the channel and a good friend of the Instagram page. Um, yeah, that's what I was saying. So there's, I call them like the core group as like a joke. There's always a core group, probably like two handfuls of people that are always in and out of my inbox. We're always talking back and forth. And you've been one of them for a while. I don't even know how long I've had the Instagram page up. I would imagine you followed it one day just because the true crime stuff.
So you've definitely been on there at least 2 years because I've moved from New Jersey to South Carolina, and it's been like a 2 year span. And I used to follow you back in New Jersey. So you can't like I follow a lot of crime shit, a lot of like old white zombie pages and like
Yeah.
Charles Manson shit. And I guess my algorithm came up to you, and I'm like, yo, this is right up my alley. Like all the like kind of like you put the serial killer stuff, but you put like the funny spin on it sometimes, like with some of the
Yeah.
spoof stuff and you know all the shit like that. I was like, dude, this guy's right up my alley, and it was pretty funny. So I just followed you, and then it's funny. I didn't even know what you looked like, and I'm like, dude, I bet this dude's like some long hair, like hippie. And then I find out what you look like, and I'm like, dude, yeah, like a young Rob Zombie. Like it totally makes sense. But yeah, dude, that page is awesome. I think one of the first things was like you posted a video that I've seen of like the Charles Manson ultimate question. You know, when he's just like going fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, this shit's awesome.
Dude, I
But
feel I was talking about or last time I was streaming with Annie on Wednesdays, I was talking about how I feel like I my plan was kind of miscalculated for the whole Instagram to YouTube thing. So I thought it was going to be a genius idea to basically make an Instagram and kind of uh create a following of people that are into the same stuff that I'm into. Originally, I wanted to hit like 10 or 15K subscribers before I made the YouTube channel. But then I had that whole strike and it messed with my engagement. So I just was like, fuck it. I made the YouTube at 9,000 followers. And so I thought it was going to be genius. Instead of just starting a YouTube channel and posting it to nobody, I thought, oh, I'll do this. Now I have like a following to post the YouTube stuff too. So, every time I post it, I post to the 9,000 followers. But obviously, I've now learned that people follow the page for the stuff that I'm into. They don't follow it for me. Like you'll see this if you look at all my posts, you'll see like the Manson posts will have like hundreds of likes. And then the posts of me, there'll be like 20 or something, which I don't care. I'm totally fine with it. But it's just funny. I thought I was a genius for doing that whole like, oh, I'll build up a following first and then I'll post them. And now I feel bad. I feel like I kind of like bait and switch people. Like here's a bunch of true crime stuff. And now here's like TikTok style edits of me talking about girls that I dated in high school. But then, like I said, at the same time, no, I don't care. What are you gonna do? Like,
I don't I don't look at it that way because my thing is like a lot of the stuff you post, like you'll do like a little like minor editing to it, like whether it's like some background art or whatever. And like, I don't know if you're creating cool shit like that, even though it's not totally original, it still interests me in the person that's posting it because you're into that same shit. And so I'm like, why not look into the other stuff that you post, even if it's about you? I get what you mean though. Most people are like just liking it for the fact that it's Charles Manson on there saying some funny shit. But
yeah,
other way, like you're posting shit that I'm interested in, that opens a door to other stuff, kind of like how we're talking today.
yeah, that makes sense. The funny thing about all the Manson stuff is that I never even like purposely wanted to have just like a Manson page. I just happened to be going through the phase of getting into the Manson story at the same time. The story of the Instagram is that years ago, I made a blog page on, I think it's no, not WordPress. It's like Blogger or WordPress, one of those blog sites. And I remember I had watched an interview with Rob Zombie where somebody asked him, how do you come up with your album names? And he basically flat out said he just takes a bunch of cool words that he likes and strings them together, how his titles are. So then I was like, oh, okay, like that's easy. So I made a blog page and I called it Disco Acid Witchcraft. It's just three words that I thought were cool. And then probably a couple of years later, my little sister, she's 14 now, but at the time she was probably like 12 or 13. Um, my little sister was telling me I need to make a TikTok. And I was like, I don't know what to do on TikTok. But I was sitting around at work one day, I was bored. I made the TikTok and I was gonna call it Disco Acid Witchcraft, but then I was like, I think cult rolls off the tongue better, Disco Acid Cult, so I did that. And then I also thought it would make more sense because if you're trying to like gain followers, it's this is the cult or whatever. So I made the TikTok and it just sat idle for months. And then finally, the very first thing I posted, which coincidentally was like the most popular, it had like 2 million views and like a shit ton of likes, was the Manson clip where he talks about the guy asking him, I heard you said you was Jesus, and he's like, you know, you know, the interview with Tom Schneider or Tom Snyder, I think his name is. So that and I posted that, and then that shit popped off, and I was like, oh, okay, there's like other people here that like this stuff. TikTok is the worst. TikTok bans you for anything. My first strike on the first TikTok was I posted an edit of Richard Ramirez walking around the courtroom in sunglasses, and the song I chose was "Shoot to Kill" or "Shoot to Thrill" by AC/DC. And somehow TikTok's algorithm must be smart because when I took that music off, it let the video stay up, but I guess it somehow picked up on the lyrical content of the song. And I don't know because then on this new TikTok that I have, I just posted a Richard Ramirez edit the other day, and they struck it right away. But there's also Richard Ramirez edits on TikTok. There's no solid rhyme or reason. It's just it's kind of irritating. There's no the rules don't seem to be set in stone because, like I said, there's plenty of Richard Ramirez stuff all over TikTok. But when I post it, it's but that's basically how it happened. The TikTok got banned after enough strikes. So then I thought, well, I'll try my luck on Instagram, and then here I am. So I started posting the Manson stuff. I've deleted a lot of my old posts, but a lot of my old posts were just like random. Like there was clips from movies that I like, and the cover title of Gator Bait, this Claudia Jennings movie from the 70s. It's a really great movie. You should check that out if you've never seen that one. But yeah, fucking A. So yeah, the Manson stuff was never like intentional. It was just when I go through phases, I go through them very hard.
Right.
It like when I'm into something, like I'm fucking into it and I breathe that subject. So I was going through the Manson stuff at that time. And then now I've been more so back into film, like early 80s slashers. That's like my favorite. Uh Real quick, if you start with horror movies, what's like what subgenre, what kind of horror movies do you usually go for?
So I like the psychological ones. I mean, but I also like the slashers. I'm kind of all over the place. Like, if you were to say like number one, I'd say like all the Hannibal, Silence of the Lambs like series because I love the psychological shit. And I know a lot of people like don't look at that as like a true horror movie. They look at that as like kind of like a drama, like psychological. But if you're looking at like slashers and stuff, like we talked about Maniac, I love that movie. I just think it's like you said, such a cool movie where it's like in place of that gritty New York, you know, like sleazy 70s, just like awesomeness. I love that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original is a
Uh
classic. Uh, the only remake I really enjoyed of that was the one with Jessica Biel in it. I thought they did a good job on that one. Yeah,
y-
man.
Jessica Biel's outfit alone in the 2003 version is enough to watch that movie.
Yeah, and like the guy, oh man, something Lee, the guy that played the old guy, the Marine guy that played the
uh
sheriff.
Arlie Ermy.
Yeah, dude, he played a great part in that. Like, I love that shit. So yeah, man, I don't really have like a set genre, but like huge horror fan. Like I've watched The Shining probably 100 fucking times. Like it.
Yeah.
So I stay like watching the classics because all the new movies are shit, dude. Especially horror. Like, I'll watch the Hellraiser original 3 trilogy like over and over. And like my friends are like, bro, we're watching this shit again. I'm like, yeah, we're watching this shit again. Like, I have a hard time giving new movies, let alone new horror movies, a chance because they usually just disappoint.
Yeah, it's like you said, I'll watch any horror movie. If I have to pick subgenre, it's the slashers. I like the single villain stalking, But and yeah, particularly my favorite decade, everyone when they pick a favorite decade, they always go like 70s, 80s, 90s. I have it down specifically. My favorite decade is 1974 through 1984.
Right.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I would,
Oh,
like, straight up debate somebody that it's the greatest horror film ever made.
oh yeah.
Um, what I call my comfort movie, that's, like, a term that people use, is, House of a Thousand Corpses,
Hell yeah.
and then, like, I mean, like, it was ridiculous. When I first discovered that movie, I was working at a grocery store, I would stock shelves, and my boss would let us put in, like, an earbud while we stock shelves, and I used to listen to the movie, like, while I was stuck. I'd listen to it, like, 4 times throughout my shift, just, like, listening to it, and then,
Yeah.
yeah, the new movies are nowhere near as good. There's a couple of shiners, like, I really like that movie X and Pearl, those were good movies. Um, but yeah, a lot of them now, they just don't hit the same. I didn't bother with, they had that what's that fucking Bodies, and, like, Talk to Me, like, you can pay me to see that shit. I really liked Late Night with the Devil, that was a good one, but that was like a '70s throwback movie was the thing. So, same with X. I've noticed that the newer ones that are meant to be set in, like, the '70s, of course, coincidentally, just so happen to be ones that are good. And then, not new, but new-ish ones, like, I really liked It Follows from 2014. I thought that was a really good one, but, yeah, overall, if it's up to me, if it's my choice, it's '70s and '80s, and it's slashers. I just watched, House on Sorority Row last weekend. That was great. I just got some more movies today in the mail. I got The Mutilator. I think it's from, like, '85 or '86. I got Don't Go in the House. Yeah, all the it was just better. It was just better back then. I feel like they were allowed to do more. Nowadays.
It's more creative. I just feel like I don't know why. Maybe it was the better acid back then or whatever. They were more creative, dude, and like just they worked with so little. Like Tom Savini and like his special effects, they didn't have CGI. Like this dude had clay and like would do this stuff, and it was just like I don't know. It was more original. There was better ideas. I feel like that I was like born in the wrong era, like not just in the horror genre and everything. It was just such a cool time. But jumping back to House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects and that phenomenal films, like 10 out of 10, obviously. But I met Sid Haig and I met oh my god, Bill Mosley at a horror con like right before Sid Haig got sick. Sid Haig was like very quiet and like looked like he didn't want to be there, but it makes sense knowing he was sick. Bill Mosley, cool fucking dude, man. Like, didn't even charge me for a picture because like I was with my friend at the time and I was like, dude, she just saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and like Chop Top and all that shit. And he was like, he leaned in, he's like, what'd you think about it? Like, was kind of like being funny with her. And he was just a cool dude. And I don't know, just those guys are great. Rob Zombie's a genius. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he gets way too much hate. I joke very often and say that he's like the Nickelback of horror movies.
It's funny. It actually like makes total sense. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny because it's almost like Rob Zombie movies are almost like an entire subgenre into themselves now,
Right.
and you either like them or you love them. I display comments sometimes, so I gotta pop up with the "I
Yeah.
love Sid." Yeah, Sid Haig rules.
Yeah.
Um, Real bummer. Three from Hell. You
Yeah.
saw, so
Yeah.
I'm fine with Three from Hell. People complain about the rejects died. In my mind, Three from Hell is kind of like a fun little what if movie. Like, we know they didn't survive Devil's Rejects, but what if they did? Here's what would have happened. But the biggest bummer is that, they talk about how Rob had a whole script with Sid Haig as the third. And then when he was too sick, he had to rewrite it, I guess, within like days or even maybe a couple weeks.
Right.
And I'm super curious what it would have looked like, what the original script with Sid Haig looks like.
Would have been. Would have been. In my opinion, I would have been way better. I did
Yeah.
not. It. Hey, I mean, listen. I'm also not a movie director. Changing a script on the ball like that is something that was probably very difficult. I didn't like it, and I was so disappointed because I love the Rob Zombie films and all that. But yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? He got sick, and it made me sad seeing Sid like in that one scene because you could tell he was struggling. But you know what? He's a badass dude. Like that he finished it and did what he had to do. You know.
It's funny, yeah, you could tell he was, like, deathly sick in that scene, but that one scene is, like, one of the greatest like, he stole almost the whole movie with that one scene,
Right.
like, that interview scene with him is incredible.
What did he call himself? I'm just Bozo Jesus. And he's in. I love that.
I really liked, I always have, like, a wish list of things that I wish would have happened, and I would have liked that movie a lot more if so Sid Haig was gonna be out, it's a bummer, and I wish what he would have done was just do basically Adventures of Otis and Baby in prison. He could have done like a 70s exploitation, like, all in prison. Imagine, like, Otis, stabs another inmate and has to go back to trial, you know, what is Baby doing? Maybe she gets into some, like, weird lesbian relationship with some prisoner, it could have been really cool if it was just those 2 in prison. This is what happens to them. But, and I like Richard Brake, I think he's a good actor, it's just, you could tell that that character was just you could literally tell it was just, like, tacked on at the last minute. I mean, it was obvious. I think, like you said, he did the best he could. You have to rewrite a whole script last minute. I guess there were scenes where Richard Brake would show up to set and like his lines weren't even written for the day yet. Like he's reading the script and then within minutes going out onto the set and like shooting the film. Like so it sounds pretty hectic. Of course, you do what you can do, but
Right.
yeah, obviously corpses and rejects are like that's like the top of the chart as far as his movies go.
Right. 31 was a great movie. You mentioned Richard Brake. I think 31 when I hear Richard Brake, because that intro is like really cool. Not it wasn't, to the Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses standards, but I don't think anything will be because it was such a high, awesome plateau. But 31 was a great movie. Richard Brake did a great job in that one.
That's funny. Those are our two disagreements so far. I'm cool with Three from Hell. You don't like it. I can't stand 31.
Really?
It is the one kind of black eye. The one black eye to me in his filmography. It's just not my favorite. I just think it's a little standard. Like it's just killer clowns, carnies.
Right. I guess the storyline was standard, but I don't know. I thought it was, and I thought it was pretty cool. They put, oh my God, Robert McDowell. Am I saying that?
Oh,
The dude,
Malcolm McDowell. Yeah,
Malcolm McDowell from Clockwork Orange in there, which is cool. But
yeah.
now, what did you think of? I think you might have mentioned it on your Instagram that you liked Lords of Salem.
I love Lords of Salem.
Yeah,
You what?
I didn't like it. I really didn't like it.
Okay, so my thing with it is when I first saw it, I also hated it. It took me a long time to even watch it because I remember reading the kind of synopsis about it, and I literally read it, and it was like, oh, a DJ at a radio station gets a haunted record. I was like, that's so fucking gay. Honestly, that sounds like the worst storyline ever. But then I watched it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I hated it. Nothing really happens. Then I watched it again. I was like, okay, like it looks cool. I can get behind how it looks. Then I watched an interview with him and he talked about how it was inspired by the Italian horror of like the 70s and 80s, like Suspiria by Dario Argento. And he literally straight up said that, when he wrote it, it was based off like Suspiria and Rosemary's Baby. He said the story was not that important to him. It was all about the atmosphere and like the feeling of it. And then once I heard him say that, I went back and watched it and I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, the story is like second on the priority list to, it looks really cool. It's also kind of claustrophobic. I like little claustrophobic movies. It takes place in the radio station, her apartment, and then like, she goes to the park sometimes. But it took me a while to like it, and I had to really look for things that I liked about it. But after watching it enough times, now I love it. I think it's like an underrated gem. And then what did you not like about it?
It just didn't. Everything, the storyline, like it just didn't catch my attention in any aspect. Like, so maybe it's because I see Sherry Moon as like hit or miss actress, and I know you've heard this. People are like, "Oh, she's horrible." She's not horrible. She's a very good actress in roles that suit her, and I just think that didn't suit her. Like, I don't know. I just couldn't really. The first time I watched it, I watched half of it and shut it off, and then I had to force myself through it because I was like, you got to give it a chance, and it just proved me. I just didn't like it, man. I didn't like it.
Um, in that movie, she is very kind of bland.
Yeah,
One complaint I will say that I always have about that movie is that she really doesn't do anything. So she gets this record, right? And she plays it and she has these horrible, like she's sick and she's hallucinating. Wouldn't you like go to the fucking doctor? Like, wouldn't you call somebody? Wouldn't she just goes to bed and then wakes, it's like she does. She just lets all this stuff happen to her. That is my one complaint. She kind of just, she's just alone. She does nothing basically. She just kind of exists in the movie. I know, I'm sure there's a artistic reason for it. Maybe she's like the vehicle for us to, but yeah, I just think, dude, if that stuff was happening to me, like if I'm like hallucinating, like and sick while listening to a record, like I'm investigating, like I'm calling doctors, I'm calling I don't know, the fucking cops, like where did this record come from? Why is it doing? She does nothing. It is kind of strange.
Yeah, bland is a good word for it. It's definitely, I don't know, like I don't know. But then, like you said, there's some movies that like people hate and then you love. Um, I don't know. Like a lot of people felt that way about. Did you ever see the movie The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe? It's not a horror movie, but it's fucked up. But people hate it, and I love it. So like I think of that when sometimes you have movies that so most people hate, or not. I wouldn't say most people hate that movie, but like I dislike it, and you like it for your own reasons. But yeah. What did you think about the monsters that he did? Like Jesus, man. On
That's a hard one. So, uh, you know, I like it more than most people. I know I'm definitely biased. I love Rob Zombie. I love the Munsters. So I will admit I try really hard to like it. I've probably watched it twice. I have it on Blu-ray, so I have that little making of documentary that he shot. And I feel like I kind of have some ideas as to why it didn't turn out so well. Number one, we don't really know the budget, but it was made by Universal, like 1440 is the company, which is basically Universal's like straight to DVD department. Like they just make these really cheap movies and put them straight out on video, which as we know, it came out straight to Netflix. There was no theatrical release. I know it was shot overseas. It was shot in like Hungary or something, which he's never done before. The whole cast, like the film, the actual cinematographers and all of the crew, apparently there was like a huge language barrier between them. Like in the making of documentary Rob was talking about, he's like, yeah, we straight up don't understand each other sometimes. um and so all of that is like not a reason for the story to suck, because the story was also not that great in that movie. I remember when it was advertised, I remember seeing a trailer where there was a tagline that talked about like the greatest love story ever told. So I thought we were going to get this great love story between Herman and Lily. And there was really, they just kind of fell in love right away. To me, I thought it was going to be like Herman has to do it, like, maybe Lily doesn't like him at first. So Herman like tries to win her. And then I kind of saw more advertisements and trailers and saw that it looked like it's going to be about like a rivalry between Herman and Grandpa, which there was a little bit of a rivalry, but it doesn't really, it's just like nothing really happens in the movie. There's no stakes. There's no, to me, what's funny about it is that the little plot of Lily's brother selling their house as a debt and then them having to move, that sounds like a perfect episode of the Munsters TV show that can be done in like 20 minutes. But for a whole movie, it didn't work. The positives I try to give it are, it looks cool. It's obviously a cheap movie, and with the little bit of money he had, it does look really cool. The lighting is cool, but it's not funny and the story is not good. And in comedy movies, you can do one or the other. If the story sucks, as long as it's funny, I'll like it. Or if it's funny, or if it's not funny, but the story's great, I'll like it. But it fails on the story and the comedy, which is the two most critical things of a comedy movie. I think after this is I'll be done and then you can go on about it. I'm ranting now, but
yeah, you're
I
good.
I think he would have benefited greatly if he would have hired a family friendly comedy writer to help him with the jokes. He's obviously funny. Like House of a Thousand Corpses is funny. That Haunted World of El Super Beasto is very funny, but it's all very adult and crude. And The Monsters was PG. Rob's not family friendly funny. He doesn't, the jokes in that movie were not funny. I think if he would have brought in a writer to help him write the PG, the family friendly jokes, it could have been funnier. But it wasn't that funny.
Right. Yeah, I I mean, I don't. I was pumped for it just because I'm a big Munsters fan, the original Munsters, and
Mhm.
I don't really know. I can't get into depth as what he should have done different. I just thought it was trash. I watched like a small section of it, and I was like, I already know I'm gonna hate this. Like when Lily meets Nosferatu on the date, and I was like, "Are you like what the fuck?" Like it was so corny. Like, yeah, the original Monsters was corny, but it was like a acceptable kind of corny. This was like way too like tongue in cheek, weird. It was a big bummer. I was so pumped. I was like, post on my Facebook, like, so looking forward to this, and then you know, it sucked. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know. It just wasn't a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the main thing, you're right. There's not like, I can't think of what would have made it better. I just like I said, all I could think is if he would have brought a comedy writer in to help him with the jokes. But,
Um,
his stories on all of his movies seem to it's usually his biggest flaw. Like, the story of House of a Thousand Corpses is just the story of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No one ever talks about it, but the story of Devil's Rejects is just Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. You
right,
know, Halloween and Halloween 2 were just, they're remakes that you got the story. But when he's left to his own devices on the overall story, we get a DJ with the haunted record. And we
right,
get I almost think what he would benefit from is a lot of people complain about his writing. I like his writing itself. Like I like the vulgarity. I like his gritty style of writing. One thing I think he could benefit from is if you see those movies where the credits will say story was by this guy and the writer, and then it was written by one guy. So there's like a guy just kind of bullshitting stories back and forth. Is what it sounds like. Maybe if you just had a guy like talking with him about stories, he'd get some like more complex stories. But then
right.
again, I say that, and I think Halloween 2. I think his Halloween 2 is like one of the greatest stories he's ever.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was I was gonna say we might as well finish off the filmography. What did you think of his Halloween 1 and 2?
Think they were great, man. I mean, John Carpenter's Halloween is a classic, obviously, but I think he put a total cool, different spin on it.
Mhm.
Um, I just I liked it, everything about it. I like the kid actor he used for to play Michael Myers. I thought the kid was like totally creepy. It's funny. I read like he's like nothing. I mean, obviously he's an actor. He's going to be different like in real life, but the kid's totally different than he was portrayed. But yeah, no, I just thought he did a overall good job with it. I mean, like so I feel like some classics shouldn't be touched, right? At first, when I heard that was going to be a remake, I was like, oh my god! But like the one with Jamie Lee Curtis, well, they're all with Jamie Lee Curtis, but the one that they just did, where she like burns him in the basement. I don't even know which one that it was. It was a newer one. It was like 3-4 years ago. Like I thought that kind of sucked. Or Halloween Return, whatever it was. It was some of them, I guess it depends on who does it, but some classics shouldn't be touched. He did a good job on that. Uh, what other Halloween was bad? The one with wasn't there one with like Buster Rhymes in it or something? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, uh,
Um, 2018 is the one with Jamie that you said
yeah,
Jamie
that
Lee Curtis.
okay. I remember
Uh,
I was there and I watched that, and parts of it are blurry because I was fucking hammered. Like I brought like a dirt bag with alcohol to like the movie theater and just got shit faced and watched it. And I was like a belligerent, like so I remember it vaguely.
I like 2018. Obviously, I like Rob Zombie's better. I like it. I like his Halloween 2 is like one of my top favorites of his. Everyone hates that fucking movie. I think it's great. I think I want to do a video talking strictly about Rob Zombie movies, like a video that I actually write out like a script, just because I have a lot of every time I see like the general complaints about his movies online, I have like points, like counterpoints that I think are kind of good. And one of the biggest complaints you see about his movies is they'll tell you that Rob Zombie didn't understand Michael Myers or the original Michael Myers, which I think is fucking stupid. Okay, number one, Michael Myers is not fucking rocket science. My 14-year-old sister understands Michael Myers. It's a guy in a mask. We don't know his motives. Like he's a force of evil. Like what? It's not some fucking genius formula that we need Stephen Hawking to figure out.
Yeah,
I don't think Rob Zombie doesn't understand him. I think Rob Zombie understands Michael Myers just fine, but I think he decided to give us the Rob Zombie version of Michael Myers. Like if Rob Zombie would have made the John Carpenter Michael Myers, people would be complaining that he copied John Carpenter. But then when he gives us a different Michael Myers, people complain. You know, you can't win with remakes. When you remake a movie, somebody's going to complain about it. Yeah, everybody says that he doesn't understand Michael Myers. I don't think that's true. I just think he wanted to make his own Michael Myers. I know the reason people complain about Michael Myers is too big. He's too big and hulking in his movies. The reason he's talked about this, the reason that he made him huge is because of the Busta Rhymes movie. He said after seeing what had been done to Michael Myers, you know, he'd been set on fire, he'd been fucking killed, he'd been karate kicked by fucking Busta Rhymes. He purposely made him huge to make him scary again. He said Michael Myers hadn't been scary since 1978, so he wanted to pick the biggest, scariest guy he could find to kind of put some respect back on Michael Myers' name. So I thought that was kind of like an endearing thing that he did because his movie came right after the Busta Rhymes movie. You know, Michael Myers was he was a fucking joke at that point, dude. He got fucking karate kicked by Busta Rhymes. Like it doesn't get worse than that.
Yeah. My personal favorite original Michael Myers movie is 4. I love that one, Return of Michael Myers. I thought that was great when they kill the dude in the ambulance, and you know Loomis finds out about it, and he's just fucking world is like completely crushed because he's just like, you don't know what you're dealing with. That was a great movie. I loved that.
Yeah, I like you know, everyone talks about that movie, the very opening sequence, the credits, how it looks so like autumn in a small town and
Love that, man. Because I grew up in like a very small, like, rural. When you think New Jersey, you don't think rural, but South Jersey is very rural, and it just reminded me of like my hometown. And like when I was a kid, that was the most terrifying part. I was like, I could picture this shit happening here. You know what I mean? Um, Very good movie.
yeah, yeah, no, I grew up in a small town too. It's funny, I'm in California, so people never think of California as I grew up in a rural, like fucking red as can be. California's it's funny how these states get like, you know, California is like one of the bluest. It's just LA and San Francisco. Dude,
Yeah,
everywhere else in Northern California, you're like you step on the wrong piece of property, like you're not surviving that. Like
I heard about North California. So I don't mean to digress, like, but the movie thing to this, but uh, I moved from New Jersey to South Carolina, and even though I was in a rural part of New Jersey, the South is so different than anywhere I've ever been to, and you know that's the thing. They're like, New Jersey, what's the city like? I'm like, they still try to send me like newspaper articles from like New York, and they think I'm like from that part, and I'm not. And I guess that what you would get from California too, because all you see on the news is how horrible LA is doing and how Skid Row. But I've talked to a girl here who was from North California. She goes, dude, the state is totally different up there. Like, so I get that.
yeah, my hometown, you know, do we farms, back roads, you spend your teenagers cruising around the back roads, drinking and driving,
Yeah.
smoking, like that's what you do here.
So you never left, you just stayed in the same area?
I'm like 20 minutes from where, you know, my hometown. It's funny, I wanna go to LA, which why would you wanna fucking go to LA? But there's just stuff there that I'd like to do, like big city stuff. My other, Annie, the girl that I do Wednesday night streams with, she lives in LA. She lives in, like, fucking LA, like, she sees, like, Sebastian Bach from Skid Row hanging around, and she sees, like, the Kardashians driving to Starbucks and shit, like, she's right in the middle of all that shit. So, I would like to find some desperate OnlyFans girl and, like, let me move in for free and, like, just write all day in her house while she's
Yeah.
I would like to find a sugar mama that's not, like, 200 years old is what I'm saying.
Same, dude. That's it's just a shame, like what they're letting happen in these major cities. And it's not just California, it's, you know, Philly. Yeah, I remember walking through Philly, Kensington, and stepping over needles on the ground, like watching a homeless guy stick his hand in a used needle bin. They have these needle receptacles. I'm talking just grabbing a handful of needles, what's left. I was like, I had to stop. I've seen a lot of things in my life, but I was like, this dude has given up on life already to where he's just like willing to get like HIV for his addiction. It's terrible. Phoenix, they're all just like failing. I know it's not a political episode, but it's just crazy, man.
No, no, it's it's all good. We got dragged. Like I said, we got dragged into a political conversation on Wednesday. I'll talk about anything. Just earlier today, homeless people in my town is kind of a thing now. I live in a pretty trashy town. I run like a mile every night. Like I'm fine. You know, I'm not in danger of getting shot. But there are areas in the town. Just earlier, I was driving home from fucking Walmart, dude. Right in front of there's two main streets in my town. On one of the main streets, one of the biggest intersections, there's just a dude sitting right in front of a big light up sign, hitting the fucking fentanyl right off of foil. Like it's how it goes. And realistically, if there is any kind of political thing that I care about most, it has to be that I've done my time on the fucking on the junk and all. You know, I put in like 3 or 4 years on heroin and then a separate year on fentanyl. So like I think that shit needs to be, you know, we need to crack down on that shit. That shit can't be running around like it is.
Yeah,
Dealers need to be catching heavy charges. You know, we need to stop it from coming in where it's coming in from, which, you know, everyone knows where it's coming in from. Let's be real. It's that shit's got to stop. Like everyone's going to fucking die basically. Like and I hate the big city. I can't stand the big cities with their solutions of free injection sites and like here's free needles. Like, bro, in 2 years, are we just gonna be giving out fentanyl? Like, is that where we're headed? We're just handing out fentanyl from like, you know, it's ridiculous.
I would be surprised. I myself also been through the ringer with addiction, and I'm been clean for years now, but thank God fentanyl wasn't around when I was an addict because, I didn't do heroin, but I did, coke, meth, all that. And, that they're finding that in coke. Like, actually, my buddy last July, just a recreational, like, extra money on the weekend coke user, did a line, had fentanyl, and he died. One of my very good friends, Mike Fox, great guy. Um, that's terrifying to me because it's not just it's, you don't know what you're going to get. It's not like they're going into doing a couple lines and then going to sleep and then waking up tomorrow like partier. Like, no, it's in everything now. Sucks. I'm just glad it wasn't around when I was involved with all that because I might not be here right now. It's just, but they definitely got to stop that. And it's all government based bullshit, dude. Like, my buddy did 4 tours in Iraq, and he said, yeah, we guarded these poppy fields with our fucking lives, dude. Like, suicide bombers running cars in us, and like, why are we fighting for flowers over here, dude? Like, it's. I mean, I can go on a tangent with that shit, but yeah, something's got to give, man. And like you said, free injection sites, free meth pipes, like, you're fucking enabling these people, bro. Like, now, I have no problem saying it. I'm conservative. I'm definitely more right wing, but like, there's these countries that like will legalize everything and then regulate it. Now, I'm not saying now that's a super liberal idea. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying do it, but maybe they're onto something because it's like what we're doing now isn't working. Fucking war on drugs, like Reagan, bro. Like, you lost, bro. You lost the war on drugs in the fucking 80s. I don't know. Something's got to give. I'm not saying go do everything legal, but I don't know. Maybe if things were regulated, maybe you wouldn't have like overdose every fucking weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And like you said, the war on drugs, that shit was lost a long time ago. I have a buddy actually who within the last couple months, dude, this it's fucking wild. He has a friend and his dad bought some pot off of a guy and he smoked the pot. He died. There's fentanyl in the fucking pot. He
I
died. Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
Like
And the oh man,
it's like what pot is supposed to be like the one safe thing. Like for like, yeah, it's terrible.
poor guy. Like, I mean, I could be wrong, but people talk, people suck, they gossip. Oh, so and so's dad died of fentanyl. They think he's a heroin junkie now, and meanwhile, the poor fucking guy's trying to smoke weed. What the fuck, America? Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. It's wild because like living in the South, people are extremely patriotic, and you see more upside down American flags here than I ever have in my life, which is sign of distress. Which fucking a, we're in a sign of distress, dude. Like, something's got to give because I'm just not like that's sad. Like, yeah, that sucks, dude. Like, guy goes to smoke fucking weed. Listen, if you go, people can argue whatever. If you go do hard drugs, like it happens, like you're risking it, but like you're smoking fucking weed, man. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I have a buddy, a while ago, he was saying the fentanyl stuff. He's like, "Dude, it's giving me, like, the, like, crack epidemic, like, CIA type,
yeah.
I was like, I mean, it's like, "Yeah, I mean, I can't say it's not doing," of course.
Dude, that's the thing. Like, what the fuck? Like, I watched some crazy shit on crack in the '80s, the epidemic, and like, no one knows how they thought of making that. Just like meth, like, bro, you know how they make meth? Like, it's the most bizarre mixture of chemicals, and like, you're telling me like these fucking people in the ghetto were just thought like, oh, let me put some, pharmaceuticals exist, legal drugs exist also. Right, right, yeah. Um, you think some random guy in the ghetto just thought, let me cook up some crack one day? Like, unfortunately, I feel like that stuff was put there, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it started in impoverished, poor neighborhoods, which sucks because these people already are, you know, got shit going against them. And then, yeah, that.
Yeah, it's all shitty, like, it's like we're not doing anything right. It seems like
Does-
nowadays, we're not doing anything right.
Doesn't seem like it. Well, I don't know. Was this a weird time to segue into the serial killer?
No, I was just gonna say this is probably a great time to get into we should start with David Berkowitz because the only thing trashier than New York in the '70s and '80s is America today, basically.
Right, right. Okay, so um, just I've always been interested in serial killer documentaries, serial killer facts. Like I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I don't believe everything I read because when is it 100% true? There's always some double side to a story. Um, I got some stuff on Son of Sam. Well, I'll start off. I was talking to my friend about being on here doing the podcast, and I said, yeah, like we're gonna talk about serial killers and Son of Sam, and she goes, yeah, I never told you. My sister's friend died at the hands of Son of Sam, was in like a lover's lane type thing and got blown away. And I was like, yo, could you please ask her, like any info? I would love to hear it. And she said that she still will not talk about it with her. Like, here we are, how many years later? I mean, it says, 75 or 70, yeah, 75. And it's like she still won't talk about it, which I understand. I mean, it's a horrific thing, but I was hoping to get some info from her on a personal experience. But um anyway, my notes here. First victim was 18 years old. He killed 6 people, wounded 11. There's 2 stabbings that I wasn't aware of in 1975.
Yeah,
uh
I guess, I think one of his first things was a stabbing, and he realized he couldn't handle the person I couldn't stab people.
right,
I think that's what happened to him. I think he talked about it one time. He's like, I couldn't do it." Like, so he moved to the gun because it's, far away, it's not personal, it's
right. So obviously, you know, the whole New York City's in an uproar. It's already in that gritty, terrible layer of crime and all this ridiculousness. And then this comes along, the documentary I was watching, the cops like, as if we didn't have enough problems with 4 rapes per day, in Harlem, we have this guy come out of the woodwork. And the letter that he sends is pretty wild. Let me see if I could pull it up. What happened? All right. Oh, don't do this to me now. I just had the whole thing up. Bear with me here.
oh, you're good.
You're almost done. Click the blue Get
What
button,
is
then
this?
click Add Extension to continue.
Dude, I had the whole thing. Hold on.
That's how it always happens to me too.
Yeah. And the first letter, like I was telling you, is just like so wild to me because the way he speaks is just like fucking bizarre. Like, all right, I'll read some of it. I don't know if I'll read all of it, but so in the papers, he's targeting women. He's a woman hater. Like that's what they're calling him, a woman hater. So he responds, the first letter. I'm deeply hurt by you calling me a woman hater. I am not, but I am a monster. I am the son of Sam. This is the first time he uses that moniker. I'm a little brat. I love that. A little brat. When Father Sam gets drunk, he gets mean. He beats his family. Sometimes he ties me up to the back of the house. Other times he locks me in the garage. Sam loves to drink blood. Go out and kill, commands Father Sam. Behind our house, some rest. Mostly young, raped, and slaughtered. Their blood drained and just bones now. Papa Sam keeps me locked in the attic, too. I can't get out, but if I look out the attic window and watch the world go by, I feel like an outsider. I'm on a different wavelength than everybody. That's only a part of it, but the part I wanted to shed light on was uh, behind our house, some rest. So the research I did and the documentary I watched all explain that they found this old pump house in the middle of the woods. It was like concrete, and the behind Sam Carr, which is like right down the road, who I'll bring up later, but and David Berkowitz's house, like this little pump house, and they find dead German shepherds that are like tortured, ears cut off. They find like a place of like, sacrifice. They got pentagrams everywhere, and it's written in all different types of writing. It's not just one person's handwriting. So they look at this way later, but the one dude, Sam Carr, or Sam Carr, yeah, he's like a father to this one kid who is like a troublemaker, whatnot. Son of Sam, the kid. Apparently, they were involved with each other. I have the note here. Where is it? Oh, my shit's like all over. I had everything so put together, and I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. So John Carr, son of Sam Carr, this dude was writing those same symbols that he would leave on the letters, the Son of Sam letters. People saying that they seen this guy write those symbols on a phone book like years before, seeing David Berkowitz and this guy John Carr together, which son of Sam, his dad, father, like all this shit, like the cops overlooked, which is bizarre to me because I'm not a fucking detective, and I read this and I'm like, all right, this guy had something else involved. I don't know how much you know about the case, but it's pretty interesting.
What's on of course like a comedic note that I always bring it to. I think obviously the guy's messed up and how I think we know his childhood was kind of like, wasn't he adopted, and he,
Adopted, yeah.
not that that's like a terrible thing to happen, but that usually seems to have some effects. He honestly makes me think of kind of like a fucking edgelord. Like he seems to try really hard to, because then you can imagine getting this letter. You have no idea who this guy is. You're probably imagining this is the devil.
Right.
And then we see this guy on the news, and he's a fucking curly-headed guy that works at the post office. Like,
Made no sense.
he makes me think of BTK, which I think you said,
Dennis Rader, yeah.
because BTK was also kind of, and I say edgelord as a joke, but again, Dennis Rader, he writes these horrifying letters. You imagine the devil, and then you see him. Guy's got no hair on the top of his head. He's got a wife and kids. Like,
Yep.
it makes me wonder what the fucking Zodiac killer looked like. Like, was he also just some nerd?
It's never who you expect. And getting to what he looks like, so the 3 sketches that came out look nothing like David Berkowitz, right? If you look into this John Carr guy, his dad was Sam Carr, he looks really similar to 2 of the drawings, and his older brother looks like another one of the drawings. Like a cop on the documentary said it best. He's like, people will mess up like some features, but not all. When you're in a horrifying thing like that, you remember it to your core. That's why, like, you'll have PTSD the rest of your life, most likely, if you go through one of these horrible situations. And the fact that he used that, oh, the dog told me to do it thing. And strange enough, the dog that he's talking about, which it was a bullshit story, but was Sam Carr's dog. It was a black dog that he apparently shot at one time. And these people are all like intertwined with each other in this, little neighborhood. And it's just strange. But it says Berkowitz stated he could not divulge the names of most of his accomplices without putting his family at risk. Among the unnamed associates, he mentioned a female cult member who said that with one of the survivors, the reason he survived was because she couldn't handle a 44 caliber handgun because she was so petite that the recoil messed up. Now, whether or not that's true, but that's interesting because one of the guys got shot and it basically like skimmed his temple or something, and like why did that one fail? David Berkowitz is a pretty big, hefty guy. So
Yeah, that would make sense. The girl, that recoil hit back too far and didn't quite hit. That's I don't know. Yeah, I mean I think that makes sense. At this point, like I said, even though I barely know anything, I'm sure you'll get into this too. The idea, or we already started getting into it, that there's other people involved. To me, that already makes a lot of sense, and it also makes sense that New York cops, especially in the '70s, would want to just fucking arrest a guy because
right,
like, dude, the NYPD in the '70s is like probably it has to be like the biggest joke of all time. Like,
corrupt too.
yeah, like there's no way that they were playing that shit. They just wanted to arrest anybody and say like this guy did it. Um, one of the things I think is again not funny, maybe in a very dark and cynical way, is these inexperienced guys. Like when you hear that count and you hear like 6 dead and like 11 injured, I always think like anybody with any experience with a gun is gonna do more than injure 11. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so again, which I think would go back to, I hate to keep saying these guys were nerds and were like tryhards. Obviously, they were doing the thing; they were out killing people. But it kind of to me it shows definitely like lack of experience. You know, probably fucking none of them had like handled real guns before any of this. And now that they start like a weird backyard cult and decide they're gonna start killing people, like
Right.
it just reads like people that had bad lives and like were treated like shit. I hate to bring up like the fucking Joker movie, but it's people that are treated like shit their whole lives. They go out, they start taking it out on innocent people, and
And all three of these guys, like Dave Berkowitz, John Carr, and John Carr's older brother, were all, abused at some point in their life. That's what's pretty interesting, especially John Carr, who apparently like hated his father and was treated like shit, was abused by him. So this crazy shit goes on. Like you said, they just want to shut this case. They don't want to fucking deal with it. The cops, back then, dude, they just like even now, but I'm not gonna into it. They're scummy, dude. They're gonna do what they got to do to make themselves look good. They just didn't want to hear it, so they closed the case. And a lot of people in the department, like I would say, the good cops were like, dude, there's more to this story. Like this fucking, you know, curly-haired Jewish mailman is not our guy. Like, there's no fucking way he could be at these times all at once, and like, all that shit leading up to it. So there's a guy in this documentary I just watched on Netflix who like made it his life goal to find out the truth about this John Carr story and who really was involved. Because, dude, they also in the notes it says they found robes, costumes, melted candles, these fucking dogs that were dead, all these different, people saying that they've seen John Carr and Sam Carr together with Berkowitz, like all this wacky shit. So they go to North Dakota to find the dude, John Carr, the son, and the cops get there and he blows his fucking head off as they walk in the door. Okay. Anyway, that's where I'll end the son of Sam thing. But like, if that ain't a fucking crazy, story, I mean, I don't know what is, because he obviously was hiding something. And when they went to go interview him, he blew his brains out because there's probably bigger people he had to answer to with all the satanic shit.
yeah, you don't shoot your head, you don't shoot yourself when a cop walks in.
Dude, if you have
for
Netflix,
no reason.
watch that documentary. It's really good. Like, I'm all over the place with these facts because I'm kind of on the spot here, but like they put it together way better than I'm putting it together, and it's really, really interesting. But yeah, so now Berkowitz is 70 years old. They've tried to in May. He wants to get out. They said no. Of course, you're a fucking whack job. Now he's apparently saved by God, and I'm a different guy.
I was gonna say, what do you think of him now? Do you think he's actually a Christian? Do you think he's actually?
I think people could say what they want. I think if you can do this kind of thing in real life, I don't think you're ever going to change.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that, like, I like all this fucked up shit, but I would never hurt anybody in that type of way. And I just think it takes a certain human being to do that. I mean, I'm sure there are cases of rehabilitation. I just don't think with him there is. Like, that's some wacky shit, dude. Like, like that is some wacky shit.
So I think number one, I would never let him out of prison. But number two, I tend to believe him when he says he, is a Christian and he feels remorseful. I believe all that. But like I said, I still think he belongs in prison. If he wants to do good work for God, he can do it from prison like he's doing now. I'm not saying we need to let him out. I don't think he's, he
Right.
needs, that's you need to stay there. But when I think of people who basically try to act like they are Christian and say they're saved, I think of Tex Watson from the Manson story.
Right.
I don't think he's a real Christian. I think he's bullshitting to try and look better in the public eye. I actually know a girl, or not know a girl. There's a girl that follows me, and I follow her on the Instagram. Um, very devout Christian. She's really nice, very sweet. Actually, every time I post something, I'll probably clip this now and show it to her. Every time I post anything that's like me being inappropriate or crass or vulgar, I seriously think about her and I'm like, oh, she's gonna be so disappointed when she sees me acting like a. And it's funny, I don't even know her, but she's just so like her. I don't want to say sweetness and like devotion. It just kind of rubs off on. She's a very nice person. But she
Cool.
was telling me that she's corresponded with Tex from he's in prison. I think she mentioned that she believes him. She thinks he is uh, a real, he believes he's a God fearing man and all this. So I don't know. Me personally, I don't think he is. But David Berkowitz, I do think he is. I do think I feel like you can kind of see it in him. He seems remorseful. I bet he wishes that he wasn't the way he was. But yeah, you can't, I'm not saying let that guy out of prison. No way. That guy's, he did too much weird shit, like you were saying.
But what like pulled this guy into like? There's no doubt like a group cult going on. What the fuck like enticed this guy into that? Because I mean, maybe just weak-minded people. Like if someone just came up to me and was like, "Hey man, you want to go worship the devil behind my house?" Like I'd be like, "Get the fuck away from me!" Like or I'd be like, "Yo, you could do it." Like video it and then upload it to YouTube so I can watch this weird shit. But like I wouldn't be a part of it. Like but then again, it's the way you're raised. Like you said, he was adopted. It said he had some abuse in his family life. Maybe he was like coerced. I mean, same shit with like the Manson family. These were like poor runaway kids, on America's highway that were, he picked up, so I don't know.
Well, the thing about Berkowitz is there definitely some fucking mental illness or spiritual because his life story, like his childhood story, to me that makes me think of like somebody who goes through his life. Maybe they join a gang in their teenage years, or like maybe they fall in with the wrong crowd and do drugs for a couple years. They don't join a satanic cult and go murder people. Like I know his life was bad, but it wasn't. You've heard way worse, right? He was adopted.
Uh,
His parents died. Very unfortunate, very sad. But like, think about like Richard Ramirez or Manson. Manson had like the one of the worst I could think of. And
mom
you
was
know,
a mom was a prostitute. Fucking left them with random people. Yeah,
yeah, no. Compared to that, dude, Berkowitz had it. He was living lavish compared to Manson, and
very very true.
yeah. So that's where I think that there's definitely some mental illness or some kind of weird spiritual shit going on with him. Like that.
Like say they let. I mean, I know you said you wouldn't let him out, but say someone said, "Oh, let him out," and he fucking snaps and something triggers that. That's the scary part. Like I don't fucking know, man. I don't know. But yeah, totally bizarre case. Highly recommend whoever's watching to watch that Netflix documentary. I forget what it's called, but if you look up Son of Sam, it's like the newest one. Very interesting. And I'm sorry I can't put all this shit together in the best way. I have notes that are like all over the place that I did an hour prior, but they put it together really well. And the fact that that dude, he blows his brains out in fucking Nebraska of all places. You live in New York. The cops read the guy's wallet and they're like, he's from fucking New York. Like, what's this guy doing here? It was on a military base too. That's even weirder. Anyway, so all right, I kind of beat the dead horse with Son of Sam here. So next up, I wrote some stuff about John Wayne Gacy, everybody's favorite clown, Pogo, Illinois, 33 plus victims, definitely more, I believe. Total fucking whack job. Span of crimes, 1972 to 78. Like a lot of these serial killers, Dahmer, him, they were, almost caught, right? So like Gacy's been convicted in 68 of sodomy charge of a teenage boy. Waterloo, Iowa. Was sentenced 10 years, does fucking 18 months. Like,
I remember reading that part. That's wild. If you want to talk about like cultural differences between now and then, like who the fuck goes to prison for 18 months for doing that to that's wild.
fucking banging a kid. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? And shame on the system, dude. Like, it's funny when I think of like, the system fucking up. I think Ed Kemper's story. I think of Dahmer getting stopped by the cops at 2 a.m. where the kid's head's bleeding and they're like, go back. Like, fuck those guys, man, because there's a lot of people dead and I feel like the blood's on their hands. I mean, in a lot of ways. And that's just fucked up, dude. So, he was a model prisoner. They did this, this thing where he's the cook, right? He loves to cook. So he's like the cook of the prison. He's all proud of himself. Oh yeah, John's a great prisoner. Yeah, he fucked a kid, dude. Like, get a fucking life. So anyway, he gets released and goes on his insane friggin', spree where he, as most people know, he owned a construction business. He was very successful, dude. Owned like a Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise. He'd pick these kids up with the promise of work. I think it's wild to me this, because everybody was more innocent back then. He'd drink with these kids and he'd be like, dude, check it out. I can get myself out of handcuffs. And he'd handcuff himself. And then he'd get out of it. And they'd be like, how'd you do that? He's like, oh, put them on. I'll show you. And he's like, when they can't get out, he's like, well, the trick is you got to have the key. And then he just fucks them up. Total crazy dude. Did you know how he got caught? The story of the cops when they went into his bathroom. Do you ever hear this?
I'm sure I've read it before, but all I really remember is that they searched his house and they started finding stuff.
Right. So the police were watching him, right? There was a lot of reasons, like all the kids that were their last scene going to a job interview with him. Like, he wasn't fucking smart at all. So they're watching him and he's so cocky. He's like so arrogant. That's why he's like one of the most interesting people to me, because he didn't give a fuck. He'd wave to him as he'd go past them in the car. One day, it was like real cold out. And he's like, guys, I know you're watching me. Come in where it's warm. Let me make you breakfast. Now, he's got 33 fucking kids beneath their feet. That's balls. So the cop said he goes into the bathroom to take a piss, and the heater kicked on at that very moment, and the fucking smell. And he said, dude, being a cop, that smell. And he said, that was it, dude. He fucking knew. Like, he knew. And they right there, put your hands behind your back, done. Get into like the conspiracy theory or whatever. I watched a documentary on this, and like I was talking about earlier, there was 2 kids that worked for him that miraculously never got killed, that apparently he was having, gay sex with for money. He said in the interview, he's like, oh, I can call them and they'd go down on me anytime, like for money, like bragging about it. They interview these kids and they don't admit the gay shit, but they admit that we've spread lime in his basement multiple times. We've dug multiple holes and we've seen things, quote unquote, that we knew what they were, but we didn't know what they were. So we just shut our mouths. So definitely had help there. And his famous last words are kiss my ass before he died.
So for uh, me, when it comes to the serial killers, like all the infamous serial killers, to me, there's 3 categories that I kind of put them all into. The number 1 category, or well, not in order, but category 1 or A, whatever. The first category is a category of serial killers who they are the way they are, and it's for all of them, it's a mental issue, but they are the way they are, and they truly wish that they weren't. These are the guys that I almost feel a little bit of empathy for. These are guys like Jeffrey Dahmer, guys like Bundy. I think these guys wish they could just live normal lives and be normal people, but they have these compulsions. They have these terrible compulsions. Then you have category number 2, which is the guys who are just legitimately deranged. They don't even realize what they're doing is wrong. That's like Ed Gein, like Richard, what's his name? Richard Trenton Chase from the Vampire of Sacramento. These guys are just purely mentally deranged. They don't understand the morals of what they're doing. And then the third category is just pure evil, like assholes. This is Richard Ramirez and John Wayne Gacy. These guys are not remorseful. They know who they are. They don't care. They're almost fine with it. John Wayne Gacy to me goes in that category. He knows what he did. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. He doesn't apologize to the families. He just is the way he is, and he's brash about it. And that's just the way it is. So I've always thought of him as one of those. He's not apologetic. He never once fessed up to anything. He died saying that he doesn't know how those bodies got under his. Right.
That's actually, I love the way you broke that down into categories. That makes total sense. I never thought of it that way, but that's exactly. And like you said, like Dahmer and Bundy, like both came from great families, loving parents. Well, not Dahmer, unfortunately, kind of got hung out to dry, in his teen years, but like had pretty good families. And like you said, they're that way, like from birth, and they wish they, couldn't be, but broke that down. Good.
And they don't have to be from bad families for that category, because Ed Kemper is also, I put him in that, I don't think Ed Kemper didn't want to be the way these are people that
mentally fucked up.
Yeah. They don't want to be this way. They just have these compulsions about, that's just kind of how they are. They wish they weren't. When you see interviews with Dahmer, he looks legitimately upset that he is the way, that he is the way he is. But Gacy, dude, you wouldn't catch a video of Gacy looking sad. Like he's almost, it seems like he's fucking proud of it, realistically.
Right. Dude, and so like Gigi Allen, like all that shit. Dude, like him and Merle Allen, like I was watching a thing. They'd go and like talk to him for hours in his cell, like, and like, like get off on this shit. Like, this is total side note, but like pretty interesting. Like that they bought a lot of his paintings and shit, which are went for like thousands of dollars. There's a guy who bought Gacy's paintings just to burn them. Pretty interesting.
I remember hearing about that. This crude Manson painting. There's this kid that I know that I met from the Instagram. He painted it, and he's really into Gigi Allen and all that shit. But
I'm gotta plug my phone in. I'm listening.
Oh yeah, you're good. Yeah, but I remember learning that Gigi Allen and his brother would go visit Gacy, and which is whatever. I don't know what they talked about.
No, I just thought it was interesting. I mean,
yeah.
Like, not surprising for a guy who like smears shit and piss at his shows, but like Gigi Allen was the true fucking punk rock whack job badass. Just kind of like interesting.
Yeah, I don't like. It's usually surprising to people. I'm not a big fan of like true punk rock like that. I don't really like the music, but I love a good rock and roll character. And Gigi Allen, dude, we need another Gigi Allen in this world. That's for sure.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay with it side like that or no? Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I hear you fine.
All right. But yeah, so John Wayne Gacy, yeah, Pogo the Clown, and has a picture. Oh, what's really interesting? Has a picture with Nancy Reagan, right? Because he was so involved in politics. And they fucking, dude, this is how scummy we already know our government is. They tried to fucking like X that out of everything online. Didn't want you to find it. Oh, it's not true. Motherfucker, you hired the guy to fucking check the guest list. Like obviously we know they're lying scumbags, but pretty interesting. But it's funny how he played all these people
Nowadays, dude, they would proudly give Gacy some job in the cabinet just because he's gay or something. Like, I mean, dude, it's I don't trust anything that comes out of the government, that's for sure.
Nope. All right, are we done with Gacy? I got Ed Kemper here. You're from California, a true son of the state. 10. Go ahead.
I think Ed Kemper is one of the most interesting.
Yeah, super smart, dude. Super smart.
So he really quick when I was mentioning the guy that I knew. When I was like early to mid 20s, I worked at a gas station, and this guy would come in. His name was Bob, and I think he was 79 at the time, and he was a prison guard at the prison in Vacaville in California. So he was a prison guard when Charlie Manson was there, but he didn't personally know Charlie Manson, but he was there when Manson attempted to escape in a hot air balloon made out of raincoats. He said one of his friends is the one that busted him, but who he did know personally was Ed Kemper. He said he used to escort Kemper 2 places. And he said before his first day of working with Kemper, he was nervous and he asked his coworkers, like, what should I expect? And the guys were like, "Oh, dude, he's nice as could be. We call him Big Ed." They told him that if you're not a woman, you're totally fine. He's the nicest guy. They said Ed Kemper only has problems with women. Once a woman comes in the room, he gets a little weird. But if you're a dude, nice as could be. And yeah, Bob told me, he's like, "Oh yeah, dude, Ed Kemper was great. Like he was the nicest prisoner to deal with. Like he gave me the least problems. He would offer me the shirt off his back if I needed it." And I was like, "Yeah, fucking weird, man. Like very strange."
How crazy is that? Just because the hang up on women. And this is one that I really, I mean, you hear stories and you're like, oh, your upbringing was shitty, but then it shouldn't make you like this. But his mom really fucking hated him, dude. Like, genuinely fucking hated him. And she hated her husband, the divorced father. And that's what she'd say. You my bastard son. Like, you fucking remind me of my husband. I hate your guts. Like, there never was a loving mother. She was a piece of shit to him. And I think his, outlook on women came from that. As you know, probably he killed his grandparents.
Dude, and then got set free. Like, it doesn't get wilder than that. Like this guy's I don't want to say like a fucking genius, but like to this day, I think the longest reel I have posted on my Instagram is an Ed Kemper interview because it's impossible to clip his interviews down to a minute because he says so much. Like, um, yeah, when he killed his grandparents, he got sent to the loony bin because he was a teenager, and then convinced them that he was perfectly fine and not a harm to anybody. Like, dude,
Right.
could you imagine? Like, and
And
again, more blood on like the powers that be's hands. Like they set this guy free, and like, dude, like where else do you hear about like a teenager murdering his grandparents?
I feel
And
like
then,
there's kind of crazy shit in Europe, like to the volume that we have it. Like, yeah, they have their serial killers, but like American serial killer culture is like huge. Like, go on online, and this is all. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in other places of the world, but like we have like a lot of fucked up people. It seems like I don't know if it's what they put in our food or whatever, but like, but yeah, getting back to the grandparents murder, like, so he kills the grandmother, and then he loved his grandfather, and he's like, I didn't want to kill him, but I didn't want him to see her and have a heart attack. So he kills the grandfather out of like sympathy, and he tells the fucking people that, like at the fucking loony bin. So like, oh yeah, he killed her. At least he was being a nice guy. Like, anyway, does his time there, gets out, goes back with the mother who fucking hates him. She just fucking totally just puts him down. No one's ever gonna love you. People hate you. You remind me of my, your father. You're fucking, shut the fuck up. He goes on this killing spree with all these fucking co-eds because it was a stab at his mother. As you know, she was a teacher at a university in California. She loved her co-ed. She loved her, students, and he was out chopping their heads off and lining them up under her window. He said because she always wanted people to look up to her. I mean, how fucking sick is that? Like, he said also, and you've probably heard in the interview that like he locked the keys in the car with a gun in the car with the woman, and he convinces her. This is how fucking smooth this guy is. I'll let you out. I'll let you go. And she opens the door and he fucking slaughters her.
dude, there's I gotta send you the Instagram. You might have seen it. Have you seen? I think it's called Breakfast Serial Killer. It's an Instagram page. It's funnier than anything I've ever done. It's like he makes really good edits of like there's one of Charles Manson where he's auditioning for American Idol and he does his dance moves.
I think I did see this. I think I sent you some shit. He does a BTK one.
He doesn't. I don't know if it was him or someone else, but I've seen one. He does an Ed Kemper one, and it's talking about like some like roadside assistance. Like he locks his keys in the car, so he calls like a roadside travel agent, like, "Can I lock my keys in the car?" Like a
Yeah, the triple. Yeah, I seen that today. He's a triple A. it closes the thing and they go to him. Yeah, dude's hilarious. He did one of BTK where he's like, Polaroid cameras, like look at these shots, and it's Dennis Rader in the nylon panties, all tied up, the real pictures. Funny as hell.
Dude,
But
those pictures are like the scariest pictures of all time, first of all.
horrific, dude, when I started, like, I mean, I got into this shit when I was younger. Like, I was always kind of the black sheep into this shit. And when I saw that, like, that where he's half buried and he almost died that way, he admits. He had the Polaroid camera thing and he buried himself in the pantyhose and shit. And, like, those are horrific pictures, dude. If anybody watching hasn't seen the Dennis Rader BTK selfies, go look that up. A nightmare for sure.
It's funny you mentioned being like too young for true crime. It's the true crime thing. It runs in my family through the women. Like my grandmother is, I think, like 69. She loves the Manson story. Like that's like her time. Uh, very into the Zodiac, true crime. So now my mom got it. So I remember being like fucking 6, 7 years old, like staying up late to watch like the A&E true crime documentaries with her. Like, so like, uh, I'm not the black sheep in my family. I get it from them. But with all my friends in my social life, I am the black sheep. I remember talking to a buddy of mine. I can't remember what joke I made, but I made an Ed Kemper joke, and it had to do with the way he killed his mom. And my friend was like, "Oh, I don't know who that is." And I was like, "Ed Kemper?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I don't know who that is." And basically, I had to explain to him, the way he killed his mom with like the vocal cords and the garbage disposal. And at the time, I'd only been friends with this guy for like a couple of months, and I remember where he was driving, and I told him this, and he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I was like, "Dude, I told you this is the stuff I'm into." Like,
Story of my life. Story of my
yeah,
life. I say this shit to guys at work, and they're like, number one, you should be saying this to shit people you work with, like, at least in my business, because they're so fucking straight, like straight square, like, and I'm just like laughing. I'm like, can you believe that, fucking Ed or Ted Bundy had a dog named Lassie? Like, they're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, like, yeah, it's just so funny. That's kind of like, I think that's from American Psycho when he says that. They're all around the table. He's like, Ed Gein wanted. He said one part of him wanted to take a girl out and treat her nice, and another part wanted to know what her head looked like on a stick. And these people are just like, what the fuck? But yeah, funny shit. But yeah, Ed Kemper. Shout out Big Ed.
the bummer, what even more, but I mean, the biggest bummer is that he got let out after he killed his grandparents. But the second biggest bummer is that he talks about in an interview when he killed his mom. He said he literally felt like he was done once he did that. So it's almost like if he had killed his mom first, all the other women would have been fine. Like I think he basically called his mom the final boss. He didn't use that term. That's me joking about it, but yeah, he said something about once he finally killed his mom. He said he felt like all the rage kind of leave. He said he felt like his mission was completed. Again, I don't think he used those words, but it basically sounded like had he just killed his mom first, which would have been terrible enough. But it sounds like he might not have killed anyone else. And then
Yeah,
he killed his mom's friend too, just because she happened to be over at the house. God, dude, imagine the bad luck. Like you're just hanging out with your friend, and here comes her 6'5" tall son, and like, oh my god.
yeah, he had sex with her throat and shit. Like, you said you watched Mindhunter, and I looked up a lot of like the credibility of that, and it's pretty accurate when he says, he's like, yeah, when you bang an asshole, it's suction. When you bang a neck, it's all resistance. I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, and if you've watched the document or the interviews of when he talks about his mom, and he goes, she said, I suppose you want to stay up all night and talk. When he goes up to her that night and he goes, that night I knew I was going to kill her. He actually starts getting teary eyed. If you want, like, that's pretty crazy because people say, oh, that he's void of emotion. No, like, that's a human emotion right there. Like,
Yeah, that's the guys that I'm saying. They're like, you almost feel a little bit of You're like, I can see it. He does not want to be the way that he is.
yeah, yeah. And he goes, she said I wanted to sit up night and talk. I wish I would have. And I was like, oh my god. And then he goes right back there to like being serious. I was like, fuck, man.
Yeah, they have emotions. They just are different. We just don't understand them. Like it's all humans have emotions. I always hated that idea that like they don't know how to feel, or it's like, dude, they feel like they some of them get married, like
Right.
they don't, it's just different than ours.
He's still alive. How old is he? Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper. Let me see. He's got to be up there, man.
Yeah, he's probably gonna die
75.
within it.
Bur-
How
Bur-
old?
Burbank, California.
How old is he?
75.
Okay, yeah, he's up there.
Wow.
It's yeah, he's a crazy story. I always liked his story. I like, and of course, I love the whole like working with the FBI, pretty much laying the groundwork for the behavioral analysis unit. Like, yeah, without him, it's we're probably in a different place today as far as like crime fighting goes. Like
He showed you the inside of a criminal's mind so vividly to those
yeah,
him.
and it's the debate usually is did he do it like genuinely for the good of mankind, or did he do it because he just wanted to feel like important? Yeah, I don't really think it matters. The fact is that he did it and it helped out a lot. We got the FBI. They know what they're doing now because of, Ed Kemper. Before Ed Kemper, dude, there was no like the term serial killer wasn't even a thing. There was no I think before all that BAU stuff, every like murder was assumed to be like a scorned ex-husband killing a wife. Like nobody ever really thought about random murders, even though I mean they did happen, but it was not very much thought of as opposed to after Ed Kemper.
Right. Yeah, it totally contributed in a positive way, like you said, whether he wanted to or not. But I mean, he didn't have to do that. Like you said, what I think was the most chilling thing out of the whole interview when they said, and this is but this is the 70s. They said, what how many serial killers do you think are around? And he just without hesitation, he goes, about 34 in North America right now. I mean, how fucking crazy is that? Like, how many are there out now that, it's easier to get caught these days, but they're in their basements doing whatever because, you know, their impulse is going to come out one day. And there's people living among us that I think that number is greater than 34.
Well, you know what I always say today is again, I say everything comedically because I'm an asshole. The art of serial killing today is dead. Now it's all about the mass murderers. It's about people going to one highly populated location with a heavy firearm, killing as many people as they can, and then taking themselves out.
Right.
Because, and again, I say this completely jokingly. I say nobody's in it for the thrill of the chase anymore. Nobody wants to run from the FBI because it's just impossible. There are no Ted Bundys anymore. I mean, yes, there are, but they make it because they get lucky. They don't outsmart the FBI. They just got lucky. Yeah, everybody today, it's all Columbine style. Like it's just people, someone goes to a mall and takes out 12 people. Someone goes to a music festival, takes out 30 people. Someone, there's no, again, completely joking. I say like there's no respect in the art anymore. Like it's all cowards that just go take out, and then at least the guys in the 70s, they were down for the thrill of the how long can I make it, 4 or 5 years, 6, 7 years,
The
But
famous.
But realistically, without all the jokes, yeah, I think we're in the age of the mass killer. That's where we are today. It's the centralized location. Like you go to one, like I said, you go to a mall, you go to a movie theater, you go to a school, something like that.
As our Uncle Charlie says it best, back in the day, being crazy used to mean something. Now everybody's crazy. But yeah, I get what you mean. It's fucking sad, the whole like you said, Columbine style school, fucking innocent fucking people just getting mowed down. Like it's fucking retarded, dude. I'm not saying that like any of this shit's good. This is fucking crazy, but we're interested in it because it's like it's fascinating, dude. Like, how many people you fucking wave to your neighbor every day? You don't know if he's got a fucking girl tied up in his basement. Like that's like mind blowing to me. Like people that are outward and open about this shit, like you and I, like we're not hiding our fucking feelings towards it. And like the people that are like all quiet, like the fucking, the David Berkowitz are, politely doing their job at the post office, like not talking to anybody. Like those are the ones I gotta fucking worry about, dude. But I don't. My phone's plugged in, but yet my battery keeps going down. I don't know why. But
How much longer do you think you got?
I think we only got one more thing here. If it's cool with you.
Oh, I'm down. Yeah.
I think we did over an hour.
Yeah, we're an hour 25. We're good.
Sorry if I'm rambling, but
no, it's all good. I need people to ramble on here, otherwise I'll ramble.
Yeah. So the last thing is David Parker Ray.
So this is the one I know the least about. Like I know general, but this one, yeah, what's the deal with him?
So David Parker Ray, he worked for like a utilities like the town of like Elephant Butte, New Mexico. He was like a maintenance guy. Everybody liked him. Normal guy. Normal guy. He here it says he was only charged for 3. Oh wait, no, it says he was suspected of 60 to 100 murders. Now, how they came up with that number, I don't know. He was known for his daughter going to these bars and picking up women, usually lesbians, that would come home with them. They drug the girl. She'd wake up and she'd be in a trailer thing with a friggin' gynecologist chair, and he would torture them and rape them for months on end. So it'd be him doing it, his daughter doing it, and his girlfriend doing it. His girlfriend, I just found out in February, got released, and she lives in Kent, Washington now. And the neighbors in this article are like fucking mind blown. Even the cops didn't know. They let her out, and then I guess she like didn't register. Or she has to register as a sex offender, and that was like the only way like they found out. Anyways, this big article, but yeah, he would torture these girls in this like homemade friggin' gynecologist chair thing, and his daughter and fucking girlfriend were in on it. Like, talk about a family affair. Fucking weird.
Dude,
and he play like a tape for them and shit before they. Yeah.
One of the things that's like fascinating to me in those cases is like how do these like multiple people of equally fucked upness like come together? Like his girlfriend, okay, maybe his daughter, I can kind of understand because she comes from him, she's gonna have the same traits as him. But his girlfriend, like, dude, could you imagine, dude, if I went to the bar right now and tried to pick up a girl and like, could you imagine? Like, she'd call the cops on me. Like, imagine the luck that is involved in finding a girlfriend who is also down to torture and murder people along with you.
I thought the same thing. Like, if you went to, like you said, you went to a bar, she's like, "What are you into?" And you're like, "Murders and executions." What about you? And she was like, "Oh man, I want to fuck you." Yeah, like it would never happen. I think in a lot of these cases, drugs have a lot to do with it. Like people on meth like are fucking nuts. Like they just don't. Like he could probably like convince somebody like, "Oh, like it'd be real hot if we kidnapped a girl." Like I don't know. I mean, I don't fucking know. It has to be something with drug related or something. But sometimes maybe not. I mean, I don't know. Actually, I don't know how to answer that question.
That's
because women. There's really no women serial killers you hear of.
The meth thing. That's a big factor in the Manson story. Tex Watson and Susan Atkins were high on meth when Tex Watson. It was like it was a rampage killing. It was all about drug deals. And then another thing that's funny, I mentioned this earlier. Linda Kasabian, who was a co-conspirator with Tex Watson, she should have been put in prison, but she got to go free. That's another sign of how messed up the system is. Manson gets put in prison for life. Linda Kasabian, who helped Tex come up with the idea of the murders, to turn state's witness and gave a basically a practiced story that I have to do a video on the Manson thing too at some point. But when she got set free, she also went to Washington and she continued living a life of crime. She continued doing meth and selling drugs, and her kids also sold drugs. And that's kind of my little bit of a theory. Maybe it's a little too political, but I would imagine, these people want to go to states that are light on crime just in case they run into some trouble. It's easier for them to.
Right. Right. State law varies so crazy from state to state. So yeah. So I don't know if I mentioned they called this guy the toy box killer because of that fucking box they put him in. I mean, I couldn't imagine being a young woman or guy or anybody who fucking you wake up, you're shackled, you're chained, and he plays this tape right for them. And I have a little snippet of it. So put yourself in this woman's shoes. You fucking don't remember anything. You wake up, you're in a fucking gynecologist chair with your legs wide open, and then click, you hear, this is only a part of it. It's so fucking twisted. One of the parts he says, I get off on mind games. After we get completely through with you, you're going to be drugged up real heavy with a combination of sodium pentothal and phenobarbital. They are both hypnotic drugs that will make you extremely susceptible to hypnosis, auto hypnosis, and hypnotic suggestions. You're going to be kept drugged every couple of days while I play with your mind. By the time I get through brainwashing you, you're not going to remember a fucking thing about this little adventure. But the worst part, I didn't even want to read it, but like the worst part is he just talks about like how you're going to get raped in every hole for fucking months and, fucking disgusting. And how he got caught was he was stupid and brought the girl into the house. I think he was like starting to have feelings for this girl. She like played him and, he tied her to like a pole and she fucking broke. It was like wood. She broke out and the girlfriend was in there with her and she fucking punched the girlfriend in the face and got the fuck out of there. And she had a chain on her neck. Like the neighbors found her and like guy was a real piece of shit. And the kicker, he didn't even do like a fucking month in prison. I think he like died as soon as he got in there.
Dude, it's like that's like worse than horror movie shit. Like you can't write horror movies like that. Like
No.
it's first of all, you got a genius girls they get put in that situation and they have the guts. Not that not that I'm saying that they don't all have guts, but the ones that are like they try to play the you have to fake emotion for the you try to get them to fall for you. You play like, "Oh, it's cool. I like you." You know what I'm saying? Like you try to seduce them basically. He brings her in the house. Fucking genius. It is genius, but I could only imagine how hard that would be to have to act like you like this guy just to get him to not, kill you.
After him and his girlfriend and the daughter just fucking consecutively raped you. And they have a picture, like you got to look it up. Type in, toy box killer torture chamber, and it was just one picture, and it's the fucking inside of it, and there's all these fucking toys hanging on the side. There's like those medieval things with like a ball with the fucking spikes on it. Like this dude was into some crazy shit. You looking it up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see.
Oh yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, like, and he like bought the chair at like an auction from like some fucking gynecologist. Like he planned this for a long time. It was like soundproof.
What's awful is hold on, I can actually pull this up on screen while I'm talking, I think. Let me try it out. What's terrible is the fact that his two co-conspirators were women. Like, dude, women who should know like, women obviously everybody can guess what it's like to be raped, but women, the ones that are mostly the victim of that, the fact that two women were helping him do this basically to me, it's just like I almost say those two women are worse than he was because it's like, dude, you guys should know better than anybody.
That's why they probably trusted. Yeah.
Is
Look at
that the one?
that.
Yeah, that shit looks. I mean, that looks like my fucking grandpa's garage. Like,
Fucking crazy, dude. Yeah, sick, twisted. But yeah, like the trust of like another woman as like, oh, like I'll be safe, and you're bringing him back to a grand old fucking dad to do that. Real sick. And I think that has a lot of outlook, like on the way I look at people, like trust issues wise, especially for like my mom. Like my mom's like this good looking lady and like is so naive and trusting. I'm like, don't fucking trust anybody you meet. Always have a gun on you. These guys are bastards, because I hear stories like this, and God forbid I ever hear, like my mom or cousin or whoever being involved in that. Like disgusting. Like I don't know. It's hard to trust people when you hear this shit. And this guy, like, apparently, like everybody, he was a normal guy, like drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, like anybody else. Fucking, you waving to him, hey, what's up, Dave? Like, and he's doing this shit. And the documentary I watched on him. Like the MUA or wherever he worked for, they're like, this is David's truck. We left it just the same way. We haven't touched it since he got arrested. Like they're like proud of it. Like, anyway.
when you say like nothing makes you like distrust humanity more than true crime. It's funny whenever I get into conversations with friends about this, uh, nothing has made me more pro gun than true crime. And whenever we talk about it, I'm like, dude, it's nothing political. Watch true crime documentaries for like a week straight, and then tell me you don't think you should own a gun. Like too many stories of this shit to not be having a gun around the house. Like
You live in Cali, where same like New Jersey, strict gun laws. And one thing I love about the South, I carry legally every day. I don't walk to the mailbox without a gun on me. And people say that's crazy. Well, guess what? That's when the shit's gonna happen.
yeah,
You know
they
what I mean?
say it's crazy, but it's also crazy to get fucking kidnapped and put in a torture chamber by a dude called the Toy Box Killer. It happens to people.
You're right. But yeah, man, that's all I got. The only other thing I had here was just like stupid shit about like how like movies were inspired by these guys, like Silence of the Lambs. We all know Ted Bundy, all that shit, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all that shit. Ed Gein based, very
Yeah,
loose.
Ed Gein like surprisingly inspired a lot of them, considering he only killed 2 people. Like
Yeah, and he never like had a chainsaw. Like the dude was making fucking bowls out of people's skulls. Like the nipple belt's my personal favorite.
dude,
But
it's you got to give Ed Gein an A plus in art. Like at least to give him that.
yeah, very creative.
It's yeah, I don't know. It's weird. True crime is like a weird. Do you have any cases before we go? I guess the last thing is there any current like so for me the two current ones I keep up on are Brian Koberger in Idaho. I don't know if you've heard of him. They
No.
they call him like the modern day Ted Bundy because he kind of looks similar. If you look up a picture of him, he's got the same kind of like goofy white guy look. He was a college kid. He killed like 4 college students in stabbings, terrible stabbings. Yeah, Brian Koberger. And then shit, what are they called? The murders 2 little girls in Indiana. God, I feel stupid for not knowing this one. It's the Delphi murders.
No, I never heard of it.
Yeah, Delphi, Indiana. It's a DLPHI. Two young girls, I think like 13 and 14 or maybe even like 12 and 13. They were killed. They have a guy in custody. They don't even necessarily know if he's completely the right guy. Brian Koberger, we know is the right guy. We're just waiting on his trial. But those are the 2 interesting ones that I'm waiting on current day.
Yeah, I see it here. This guy, Delphi Murders. Huh.
That's been a big one in true crime world. That's a big. Well, we're waiting. Some weird stuff just happened in that story. They found maybe some kind of like cultish related stuff. They're not too sure. A lot of crazy stuff's been coming out about that one. Um,
Haven't seen too many new ones, which I should stop dwelling on these old fucking cases and start learning about, because there's a lot of shit that still happens that you don't hear about as much. But see here, like this Delphi murder thing, they got a picture of this girl walking a fucking wooden bridge alone, and these
that's
scumbags.
that's a famous picture now. The girl, it was basically 2 girls got dropped off. It's a small town, so these 2 girls' parents dropped them off to hang out. In like a wooded location, and apparently a guy was following them. So one of the girls pulled out her phone and pulled up Snapchat and took a video of the guy just in case. And sure enough, they were found dead. And
And
the police have more footage. The Delphi case has been one of those frustrating cases where the police clearly aren't making any advancements, but they're not releasing any details, which is I hate when cops do that. It's like, dude, you guys are obviously finding nothing. Like, just put everything out.
uh,
But
that's
yeah,
a
that's
eerie picture.
yeah, that's like an infamous picture now. They call him the bridge guy. That guy's known as bridge guy in like true crime.
He looks sketchy as fuck, dude.
Yeah, following 2 little girls on a
I
bridge.
imagine and like what these girls fucking felt in their last moments of life. This smelly fucking dirtbag. Like, usually with women, it's sexually motivated, unfortunately.
It's it's terrible. There's a little bit of details as far as there's 2 girls. One of them was trashed pretty badly, like worse than the other one, and it looks like one of them was maybe made to watch, like
Oh,
just terrible stuff. Like like I said, I think they're like 12 and 13. Dude, my sister's 14. That's all I can ever think about when I hear this show. I'm like, dude, like I'd be going to prison. Like I'd be happily going to prison once I find this guy. Like it's terrible. It's Yeah,
For-
it's weird. And then the potential like other, like the weird they're just like some documents came out potentially linking the guy they think is him to like some weird cult or something. But that might be kind of a stretch. They're like I said, the guy they have in custody, we're not even 100% sure if he's the guy. Like he could just be someone that fits. The Brian Koberger case, I'm a little bit more interested in though, just because that's it looks like college student stuff. There's like messages that he sent this girl on Instagram and she never replied.
Oh, I know this guy. I see him here. As soon as I picked it up, I see his fucking weird ass stare.
Yep.
Yeah, there was like drugs. He was a junkie too, right, or something. Yeah,
Yeah, he was on heroin for like there were a couple months or a couple years.
fucking Manson lamps, dude. Those eyes. Those
He, he he was in he was going to college for like criminal like FBI stuff too. Like he wanted to be a
He's a creepy looking motherfucker, dude.
that story's crazy. There's he goes into their house. There's like five or six people, kids in this house. And apparently he walked by two of them. Like it's a three-story house. He's walking around the house, stabbing four kids to death. I know at least one of them straight up says, she's like, yeah, I walked out of my room and he walked right by me and like looked right at me like why didn't he, you know what I mean? Like why doesn't he take her out? It was only the four. Super weird. But I guess that one, trials take forever, which I think is one of the worst things about our system. Like, why does it take so long to put this guy on trial? Like,
Which if it was a fucking cop killer, I bet it'd be way faster. It's just like they do whatever they want. They just do whatever the fuck they want. If it was a fucking senator's fucking kid or something, it's just like it's just wrong, dude.
I also always think that way about death penalty. Like, why have people been on death row for half their lives? Like, it takes 10 minutes. If the guy has killed people, just fucking take him out. Like, why are we waiting around?
The government does whatever the fuck it wants, man. It's like crazy. This guy's creeping me out. I gotta but take his off. He's like a fucking owl, dude. He's like at the last fucking moments of your life. Jeez.
Oh, that's the worst thinking about like the last moments of people's lives. Just some ugly motherfucker. Like,
Thinks about it till like, unfortunately it happens to like where your family members are like, it's fucking sad, dude. Anyway, well, listen, brother, I had a good time here. I'm glad we covered all this shit. But my phone's on 6%, which I'm gonna have to get like a fucking like my computer has it's a newer HP, but the camera is like grainy as fuck. So I have to, if we ever do this again, I'll have to get a better fucking camera. It's not gonna use my phone.
you can get like a camera that I had. It's like $100. It's like
Yeah.
a 1080p camera. I only stream in 720 because I don't feel like paying for the monthly 1080p on the streaming service I use. But yeah, I got a 1080 camera for $100. They're not terrible if you want to like get into it more often.
The phone works good actually, but it's just the fact that wasn't fully charged, so it's like I have it plugged into my computer, but somehow it's just draining it. But anyway,
Well, yeah, shit, hell yeah, man. I'm glad you came on. We should
for having
we should do this again sometime.
yeah, dude, you let me know any topic. I'm always down. I appreciate you letting me on, and it's been fun, dude.
Yeah, hell yeah. Shoot, sometime let's do more. I know we talked about the Rob Zombie movies. Next time, let's just fucking pick some horror movies and talk about them.
Yeah,
That'd be a good one.
for sure. You let me know, bro. Let me know ahead of time. We'll make it happen.
Right on, hell yeah. I'm gonna click you off just because I'm gonna say a little bit more bullshit on here, just probably for like 2 more minutes. So yeah, sure, man. I'm sure I'll talk to you on the Instagram soon.
Sounds good, bro. Thanks. Later.
All right, fucking A. No, I think you could just click out of here. I don't know. I don't know if you can still see me. I can still see him. Okay, yeah, I can see him, but the stream can't. Okay, yeah, now he's out. I don't even know what else I wanted to say. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to say, and I'm mostly saying this so I can clip it, is I have to talk about we have goal number 3. Goal number 3 is established for the channel. I've talked about before that I wanna talk to porn actresses and like OnlyFans girls. I don't know what they like to be called. I think porn actress is probably a respectful term. I wore a Cali Roses shirt on here one time, and I told the story about how I got the Cali Roses shirt. Well, once I told that story, of course, I had to clip it. I had to post it on Twitter, and she followed me back, which is awesome. Super cool. I Goal number 3 of this channel is now we need to build up enough of a following to where it's worth her time to come onto the show and do an interview. I would like to interview Cali Roses. But like I said, we need a following. We need enough. It needs to be worth her time. I'm not going to ask her to come on here and there's fucking no viewers. I'm not going to waste her time like that. She's obviously busy. She's making money. But dude, I want to do like I want to ask her and other actresses, but I want to ask them questions that don't get asked. You know, you watch one of these interviews with these porn actresses, and it's the stupid questions about dick sizes and their jobs. Dude, I want to ask her like, does she like the Beatles? If not, can I recommend you some Beatles songs that I think you would like? Do you like early 80s slasher movies? Uh, are there any true crime cases that you're into? What do you do when it's Sunday and you have no plans? Like, what are you doing at home? Shit like that. I think that'd be cool. I think a lot of these people get people kind of forget that there's like a personality there. I don't want to sound too simpish. Like I'm not trying to simp over this, but like, these are there. I think they're interesting people. So that's probably going to end up being goal number 3. Goal number 1 is I would like to push some music out there, some music from some bands that I was either in or some bands that I was associated with that I feel like deserve more recognition. Goal number 2 is just to talk shit about Jimmy Kimmel. I fucking hate Jimmy Kimmel. I want to fight Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel needs to see this. Jimmy Kimmel needs to acknowledge me. And goal number 3 is to interview Cali Roses. Of course, it would be a remote interview. Dude, she's got a better camera and microphone than I have. So it needs to be worth her time. That's for sure. So yeah, the top 3 goals of the show are set. And with that said, I'm probably going to get the fuck out of here. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Probably so I could clip it and post it and see if she sees it. So right on. Well, that was Mark. We just had Mark on here. Mark's badass. I never even seen him before, I don't think. I just talked to him on the Instagram. Seems like he's into all really cool shit. We got to talk about The Shining. Dude, I need to talk about The Shining with Annie. I need to talk about The Shining with Matt. And now I need to talk about The Shining with Mark. So we should have a lot of Shining videos at some point in the future. A lot of horror movie stuff in general. But speaking of horror movies, I just got The Mutilator on Blu-ray. I might watch that tonight. I also just got The Wizard of Gore from 1970 by what's his name? I think it's Herschel Gordon Lewis, The Wizard of Gore from 1970. I might watch that tonight. So, yeah, fucking A. I'm gonna get out of here. Everybody, take it easy. And thank you for fucking watching this.